Great. Welcome, everybody. We're here for a session, Developers Soar at Southwest Airlines. We are going to be talking about how Southwest uses AWS and GitLab. So let me introduce myself. My name is Lee Faust. I am a global field CTO at GitLab. I'll hand it over to Grant.
Hi, my name is Grant Morris. I'm Managing Director of Technology at Southwest Airlines. I lead our business of IT platform teams, so it includes GitLab and other DevOps tooling teams.
And hey everyone, I'm Kyle Seaman. I'm a product manager at AWS for the last couple of years, but I'm now on the Kiro team building out our AI developer experiences and been lucky enough to work with these folks for a while.
Great. So I'm sure if anybody here went in the expo hall, there's this new thing that is emerging called AI. So there's an explosion right now going on around AI coding agents and how people look at using AI to solve critical business problems. And what we're going to talk about a little bit today is a history about looking through past today challenges and tomorrow challenges and how AI is helping our customers be able to do that at GitLab. So right now there's a bit of an AI paradox going on. So there's a lot of organizations right now. I've been in many meetings this week where I'll have one company that is all in and they are moving really fast and they've got 80% of their teams are using AI for their software development. And then we have other teams that I'm talking to that they're just getting started. And they're like, point me in the right direction, give me some guidance. And everything that I hear from everybody is we're at a point right now, it's now been about 2.5 years since this has really taken off. And a lot of people want to know what the impacts are to their business. AI is still a tool that a lot of them are using, but just like any other tool that we use in our environments, is how do we measure that tool? So GitLab has built a solution. It's a part of our Duo suite. We have a beta right now of what we're calling our Duo agentic platform. We call it DAP internally. And this is an orchestration layer allowing you to be able to define your own custom agents around the software development lifecycle and how you can use the data inside of GitLab to be able to make better informed decisions. Also being able to do things like having a merge request reviewer that's AI-powered, being able to have one for being able to have conversations around your issues and your epics, and then being able to do things like CI resolution. So somebody built a CI job 10 years ago, and there's a bash script, and it's failing. Why is it failing? We can plug in Duo in there and have it go ahead and do some troubleshooting for you. This is all built around GitLab's unified data model. So what we have is GitLab is an end-to-end suite of capabilities, and it's all driven off of a common data platform that allows us to be able to use that data across every project, every group, every subgroup, every CI job, every release. All of those things provide data that we can use to be able to plug into these agents where we can then use natural language to be able to ask really important questions. So like some of the things we talk about, we go from left to right, but a lot of the things our customers want, and we'll talk a little bit about today, is how can I take that vertically as well? So let's say you've got a security vulnerability in your organization, a security engineer fixes a critical in one project. What if you were able to go find every other project that has that same security vulnerability, have an AI agent that goes ahead and automatically creates a branch and goes ahead and does a merge request, and then you can go ahead and go ahead and approve those using an AI agent on the back end. So let's talk a little bit about Southwest, because that's what everybody is here to be able to listen to you talk about your journey. So talk to me a little bit about just your general IT operations. What does that look like today?
Well, excuse me, I've been at Southwest for 26 years. So whenever we talk about the IT journey, it goes back to client server, Power Builder apps, Sybase databases, and that type of thing. So really, we've evolved with the industry over time, and that's led to, suboptimal processes, automation that's overly siloed, and just kind of the natural cruft that some of the large organizations deal with on a daily basis. So today, we're working really hard to work ourselves out of that cruft, and we're seeing some really great results with our cloud migrations and with our DevOps maturity migrations built on GitLab. So we've got about 3,000 technical resources, about 5,000 folks in the department. Overall, we have 72,000 employees, in the hemisphere. We run 4,000 flights a day, 24/7. So it's really, really critical for us that we have the most resilient and best platforms out there.
So if you went back and you looked at your introduction to Southwest, way back when, and you thought about how people built software, how is that for you, that journey? Was it something that you were, because you probably had smaller teams, you probably were able to move a lot faster, there was people who were able to make decisions on their own. Tell me a little bit how that original, like the culture and what that looked like inside Southwest.
Yeah, so like everything is a pendulum swing, right? And so way back in the day, pretty autonomous product teams, we built, deployed, supported. The product had a lot of autonomy. And then as the industry matured, we started taking things more seriously, like security, SOX, PCI, all that kind of stuff. That caused us to start separating out some of those functions. And then, we started building up these external dependencies throughout the delivery process. So I think that throughout my career, that's been something that I've been kind of striving to get back to, right? How do you empower those autonomous product teams to be self-sufficient, act within their boundaries, make decisions, while still providing the enterprise concerns that are important to all of us today. So really kind of separating out the things that are important to the product teams from the things that are important to the enterprise, and being able to provide a seamless experience there has been, I think, something we've been striving for.
Great. And you and I, we had a conversation before talking about this session, and one of the items that I think a lot of people in the room struggle with, even before we start talking about AI and all the other great things, is like back then when you talked about security, like when we look at AWS does a phenomenal job around a lot of the edge security type things, but a lot of times the IT department gets handed all of the stuff to be able to try to secure it, where now we're trying to shift some of that left. So what was that journey like on the security side? Where was security in the beginning in the process, and where are you trying, or where is it today?
Yeah, this was, so back before our cloud journey, it was kind of something that we secured on the edges. As we got into our cloud migration, security was probably the hardest topic to tackle. So from an application scanning perspective, we had the tools out there, but they were out of band, out of process, so it was kind of based on a calendar requirement. So people would forget about it, and you'd have to go remind them and go, okay, let's get your application scan done, let's get your pen testing done. So really, then as we shifted into cloud, we started taking a more purposeful approach to integrate IAC scanning, application scanning, runtime scanning, and really tried to harden things on behalf of the application teams and provide that kind of security as a service. We're not great yet. We're very secure, like, don't get me wrong. But I think we could do better at still providing a more seamless feedback loop to our engineers there.
Great. So when we think about all of the different roles, you and I were talking earlier, and we were discussing the personas of everybody in the software development lifecycle. And how do you think about, like, just think about like hiring and the type of people? Like, a lot of people have good skill sets, but what makes a good Southwest employee for your team?
So that's a great question. I look for people that have this natural curiosity. We all go through our day-to-day jobs, or building and deploying our applications and that type of thing. But we're looking for those folks that go, you know what, I think there's a better way to do this. And then beyond that, not only improving their team and creating that flywheel effect for their team, but really sharing that back with the organization so that everybody can take advantage of it. So I think natural curiosity, a high sense of ownership. Also, like, you got to have a good sense of humor. It's Southwest. We want to have a good time. So, we look for the right personality fit. But, again, going back to the industry, things have shifted so much. So you've really got to have that high sense of ownership in not only your product, but also the technology and the innovation that's being presented to you. Like, nobody's going to drive your career for you, so you've got to own that. You've got to accept those changes like AI and be a self-starter and really take advantage of that on your own.
Great. So when we think about transformation, this is something that, Kyle, I know you and we've talked about this a lot. Mm-hmm. And the transformations that we've seen, I mean, I've now been in IT for 30 years. You've been at Southwest for 25 plus. And as we think about all the different areas of transformation, I think one of the things that a lot of people miss is the cultural transformation that companies need to go through. When you started introducing GitLab to the teams, if we sort of look at today, and you went through that transformation of getting people onboarded into GitLab and getting them starting to use cloud and using it effectively, what was the cultural transformation internally? Did you have to reorganize people? How did you structure things? What was sort of some of the biggest challenges that you had with that?
Yeah, I mean, any transformation comes with people, process, and tools, right, or technology. And so if you start getting one of those on a plane that is ahead of the rest, then you're just going to create some bottlenecks. So we started small, I think, with 4 applications that we wanted to take to the cloud. Now, they were really, really important applications also, so that was fun. But start small, have the team, take the team through, that change curve. And whenever we did those first 4 applications, we had a ton of learning. And we didn't go straight to a cloud-native architecture. We did kind of a lift and massage, containerization, and shift type of thing. So it was, we kind of dipped our toes in the water to some extent through that process. Now, it was probably about 9 to 12 months after that we really started seeing the engineers get comfortable with cloud-native technologies, and so we were able to start, okay, we're going to take this out of the container, we're going to take this out of the container. So single-page applications, Lambdas, now we're getting big into event-driven architecture and that type of thing. So, it was nice to kind of meter it in and not try to go from step 1 to step 10 all in one leap. But it's definitely a change curve. You definitely have to think about how the ownership model changes.
Yep.
Right? You can't go back to your Unix engineer or your DBA and go, okay, help me with this stuff. And they're like, I don't know, like I don't own this stuff. I didn't know. So, getting the teams to realize that they are also on the hook and accountable for their products has been another interesting shift.
So Kyle, you and I, we met when you were working with Q and building out the Q product line.
Yep.
And one of the items that we saw for a lot of our joint customers was around being able to do remediation type tasks, especially around things like CI and issue resolution. What are some of the key transformations that you're seeing in your role today that people are sort of still struggling with, where they're looking for guidance from AWS and from the teams there, and how your role is impacting that?
Yeah, I think one interesting thing with like what we loved with the GitLab integration we did was it worked out of the box, so you didn't have to be an adopter of it. It was like it just happened. Like if it broke, it remediated. If there was a UI button that said help solve this, and we found that to be a really nice way to like, you don't have to know how to use AI, it just sort of showed up. So where we're seeing the bigger challenge is more on the client side, where everyone has choice. And I think, so you give a lot of choice to your developers in local tooling, and of course you have golden paths and things. So the big thing is like, well, I have my IDE or I have my flow. Sometimes I don't know how to prompt. Sometimes I don't have the time to set up context windows, steering files, MCP. So that's the opportunity we're seeing. And basically what happens is you find champions. We do a lot of work. I've seen this with Southwest too, like find champions internally and then have them turn around and do internal working sessions and show and tells and kind of highlight that work. So that's been, I think, on your I like your people, if they're out of sync, it's a problem. And the tech is way ahead right now.
Right.
And so that part, I think, has been neat. And so then you get the win of, you can put in a GitLab, oh, I have a CI issue, this would have sucked to copy locally, fix whatever. And you start to say, oh, maybe there's some benefits here. So that has actually helped with this adoption of bringing these sort of automatic AI loops into it, specifically for the AI transformations, as we were saying.
Great. So, Grant, when we look at how GitLab is helping developers from a DevSecOps perspective, a lot of times we'll hear, especially in today's world, it's the cursors of the world, the Kiros of the world, the developers are now more focused than ever, but these IDEs are now always attached. And now we've got all of this code that's starting to explode into these environments. How are you thinking about using your DevSecOps platform to be able to provide guardrails to making sure that people are doing the right things?
Yeah, so what we've been focused on over the last year or so is really creating more of that automated governance and integrating, say, the metadata across all of our IT tooling. So being able to allow the customers, our customers, we're an internal service provider, so our customers are engineers and stuff, but allowing them to maintain that creativity and the flexibility to really solve the business problems, leveraging AWS in a creative manner, while we're trying to focus on providing that enterprise-grade hardening and that type of thing. So leveraging GitLab has been really helpful for us. We're able to leverage things out of the box, as well as integrate with third-party tools to get the things done that we need to get done. But really being able to provide the flexibility of tooling, such as Duo Agent and that type of thing, to get the AI capabilities at our customers' fingertips wherever they want to consume it, right? So we've seen a lot of great success on troubleshooting pipeline issues, especially code generation, all that kind of stuff. Wherever they want to consume that, whether it's with an IDE or GitLab platform, like we can provide that for them.
When we look at one of the things that was really interesting when I had joined GitLab about 4 years ago, one of the things that I was very intrigued by is GitLab is like a tier 1 application for you. Like it
Yes.
cannot go down. So talk to me a little bit about that and how you're solving some of those problems.
Sure. Well, again, it's been a little bit of a journey, but since we started our cloud migration with some of our most critical applications, we have some very, very tight resiliency standards. So being able to take in multi-region architecture from the get-go, data, having data available in a multi-region environment was very important to us. And even as we start getting more advanced in our application development and our operations, starting to shift that mindset from a fail-back mentality to a fail-forward mentality has required us to work together with you guys and really have some high-level resiliency standards. If we start getting really nervous when some of our systems are unavailable for even 15 minutes. So resiliency is very much top of mind for us, and it's been, like I said, a journey to get there based on our architectural patterns, capabilities, and even working with AWS to expand some of the capabilities that they offer.
Yeah, a lot of people don't understand that, like Git being distributed, if your Git server goes down, it's fine. But when you start dealing with the operational aspects of keeping the lights running across all of the different mobile applications, and you've got people sitting in airports and trying to find new flights and things like that piece cannot go down. And so when we think about the automation side, on the CI side, and how you're managing not just your application source code, but also the infrastructure, your best practices, your guidelines, things like that. Talk to me a little bit about that automation aspect and how you're using that with AWS.
Sure. I mean, we've been in the early days down the path of a very opinionated cloud infrastructure platform, and we kind of tried to put everything into a single platform product. And so we've worked ourselves out of that, taken advantage of more industry standard tooling like Terraform and that type of thing. And we very much want all of our application code as well as all of our infrastructure code to be in Git, to be deployed through the CI/CD processes so that they're scanned, so that they're governed. And we very much look at console access as an exception-based thing, right? So we do not want the console to be part of our daily deployment toolkit. So we have invested, like I said, we have invested a lot in trying to adopt more industry standards, breaking up the platform as a product into multiple products that are consumable, kind of in a a la carte type of way to our customers, while we still get the governance, the security, and the automation through that. So it's really been a partnership with our application teams as well as our platform teams to be able to get the outcomes that we were after there.
So I'm sure that there's a lot of people here in the room, if they go around the expo hall, one of the words that you use, I would love for you to define it how it fits for Southwest, and that is, how do you think about a platform inside your organization?
In all the ways, I think. So there is a lot of local context there. But we kind of view, being an internal service provider, we kind of view the platforms as things that are consumed by our customers that help them do their jobs. And it's been a journey to get from kind of the do-for model, where there's a ticket-based environment and you request something and then somebody goes and does something in the background, to more of a self-service consumption model. So we're still on that journey, but we've been really making a lot of great progress towards kind of decomposing a platform into a set of capabilities that we can then go have a more targeted conversation with our customers on. So nobody ever comes to us and says, "Oh, I need a platform," right? And they say, "Oh, I need to do something." We're like, "Okay, great. Well, we've got a capability that can help you go do something." And then in the back, we manage those integrations, those dependencies, and that type of thing on their behalf.
So the people that are managing all of that on the back end, one of the things a lot of other customers that I talk to that are challenged with is a lot of times they end up becoming siloed. Like I end up building a CI silo and an agile silo. Are you doing anything to be able to sort of break down some of those barriers, to be able to allow people to use that platform in a way as a capability consumer to be able to say, oh, well, yeah, you can just reach out to the team and anybody in the team can sort of help out in that aspect?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, people try to self-solve, and that's, I think, human nature. But it does take a little bit of thought and kind of taking yourself out of your day-to-day, looking more broadly across, well, what is the value stream of delivering software, right? How do my customers consume my services? How do they deliver value to their customers? And then you start unlocking those opportunities to get people out of their silo and look more broadly at what's the overall objective or the goal that we're trying to accomplish. But at the end of the day, man, we can't be specialists in everything, right? So we still have to work hard with our upstream and downstream dependencies and our partners and just maintain relationships and communication so that we're partnering towards a common goal.
So Kyle, along those lines, with the people that you're working with right now, and as they think about plugging into the AWS as a platform and how AI is now a key component of that platform, how are your customers looking at that platform aspect?
I think it's the modules and kind of the tool chain and the supply chain and everything. And I think we hit on it with like the CI story of, one, you shouldn't trust it. Like there's a lot of, and like you're going as extreme as don't trust a human in the console. So like probably don't trust AI. Like there's a lot of interesting guardrails being built. And I think there's some really interesting work being done around authorization layers and controls, of course. And having autonomous monitoring is a feature. You just have to do it right. But we're seeing basically, do you have the right stack to even get there? So CI, I think, is like, when I talk to a customer, it's like, well, how ready are you? And it's, do you have CI/CD? Okay, good. Because if you don't, we're in a problem, because that's like a check. It's a check and balance. GitLab has some cool things where you can basically say if it's AI, don't run the CI system, right? You might have prompt abstraction and data, things like that. So a lot of it is grounding in like, what's your tool chain look like right now? How much of it is in the cloud? Like, are you running Jira in the cloud or Jira on-prem? Because that's going to make connections different, and it's a lot of time spent on that. And that's why I think the clients, like IDE and CLI, are catching on, because it's the computer. But stitching together these systems as every customer is migrating more and more to the cloud, but they're not there yet, is the biggest challenge we're trying to work through.
And I mean, as you're going forward, right, we really want to be able to leverage those AI benefits, and we want that kind of that SDLC cycle to go as quickly as possible, right? We want to iterate. And so if our pipeline and our processes become too distributed, that's just going to slow us down. So I think it's an interesting, Kyle, you brought up a really interesting point on how you manage that overall stack so that you can move quickly.
As you were saying that, I realized that we were sort of a slide behind as we started getting into that consistency of, when we think about iterations, especially at the size of a Southwest, like there's a lot of other customers that I work with. If I've got a small engineering team of, say, 50 people, moving fast is easy. But moving fast at your scale is remarkable. What do you attribute some of that success to?
Well, I mean, you look across the organization as a whole, and there's different levels of maturity in different spots. So I think as we're engaging with our customers, we really have to meet them where they're at. And we've offered a ton of different ways to engage with us, engage with our products, and everywhere from, hey, I've got a team that'll go work with this team and help you onboard to the platform products. To self-service consumption, and even now we're starting to think about, okay, how do we enable our customers to consume our products through an AI-based interface? And so it is, it's kind of like, well, you've got to be a little bit of all things to all people at the right time, and really understand where they're coming from so that you can guide them towards their desired outcomes. But we've had some really great successes with our automated governance, AI. We're seeing even the teams that are just experimenting with it, we're seeing great results there where timelines are getting cut by a third, getting cut by a half. And it's really just, I think, meeting people where they're at to start helping them along that journey.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm seeing as well is on the consistency front, as we look at digging into how AI is able to assist you. A lot of people want to go for the big wins. And what I try to tell a lot of customers is you should probably do a lot of little wins first. Because there's a lot of people out there, like you read some of the different studies and stuff where senior engineers don't like the results that are coming out, and there's some fear that's going into it. As we think about how that consistency around small little wins, are there any little wins that you've had, let's say, over the last year where you've had like an aha moment where you're like, yeah, this is something we need to double down on?
Yeah, definitely. We did the same thing, right? There was the promise of kind of agentic back in the day, maybe a year ago. We started talking about agentic and we were like, oh, that sounds really great. We should try that. And what we figured out was we hadn't really made it over the hump with just generative AI. So we needed to get really good at that before we could start dipping our toes in the agentic workflow type of solutions. Again, like we reached out to our customers through lunch and learns, through communities of practice. We started gathering up examples from other teams to use. So we've got an internal development, effort on my team where we really challenged them to leverage AI, and something that they thought were going to take, a year is coming in at, 3-4 months. Yep. And I mean, the results are really great, but you do have to engage with it. Don't just treat it like Google, right? Yep. You can't just go, hey, tell me the answer. You have to be able to guide it, give it the context. We've got a team that came up with a lot of prompts, a lot of examples to kind of give people the flavor of, hey, here's how you take a simple application and can go from nothing to fully working application through generative AI prompts. So I think, the answer is a little bit of all of the above, right? Yep. You've got to be able to provide those examples and really help walk people through it.
And Kyle, Southwest is a great example of what that looks like. How do you handle the inverse when you're working with a customer, like you were describing? Like, do they have CI/CD? Do they have? Right. But they think that, hey, you know what? If I just go grab this AI model and you tell me what the 2 or 3 prompts are, and then magic happens and everything's fixed. How are you handling this conversation?
Yeah, it's a good point. I spend a lot of time setting expectations and almost underselling. There's so much hype. There's real utility, but it gets lost in like the chaos of that. So I find what works really well is finding champions. Like we met because you cared about this. I met a bunch of folks on your team, and we just spent time together. And that's what I end up doing. It's just like, where are the champions? Because they're going to build golden paths that are applicable to all customers. And I try just to level set on the expectations. And then what's cool is, and it's not going to happen overnight, but like 3 months of learning this and playing with it, if they have time, you ship stuff a lot faster all of a sudden because you're just not worrying about the bug fix because it's getting fixed autonomously or something. So I think finding the champion, setting the right expectations, and then once you're there and you've had wins and people are buying in, like I think even with Southwest, we've had a rolling deployment of the IDE and the CLI experiences intentionally. We want to see people using it, and you've got some pretty cool systems to have people onboard, self-serve themselves. And that's right, it's like, great, use it when you're ready, but then you get the wins, and so that's just build it up. And it's like, takes time, but it's really worth it, we're seeing, because a year now in, and a ton of these customers are just moving really fast, like you guys.
So I know one of the things, Kyle, is there's just so much tool sprawl around AI right now that is out there. When you've got customers that are looking at different products and looking at different things that are out there, how are you looking at having a discussion around what's different with AWS and what you all are building.
So we're very, like by design, we are open to tooling, and to a fault in some cases. We have lots of versions of the same thing if you want it. But we think about that with customers too. Like GitLab's an AWS customer. I'm happy to pitch GitLab. We use GitLab internally. We use GitHub as well. It's like tool choicing is important. The way I think about this though is like the hierarchy of needs. So like you'll have your infrastructure hierarchy. Are you a container shop, a serverless shop? But then also, realistically, it's your issue manager and your source code. Those are like everything now because it's your source of truth. And if you nail those, then you can actually pretty quickly change out tools. Like you can experiment with a Lambda function, over the weekend, but it's running from code and CI. So what I do is like try to understand what their priorities are. And I spend a lot of time on the developer tool side. So I'm really focused up to the merge. And then it comes back to where's your source code, where's your issue tracker? Because if we get those right, then we can build out. And we're open, my whole thing is, whatever makes the most sense for your company.
So I think one of the things that a lot of the customers I've spoken to this week is a lot of them have had little wins when they start from scratch. But what happens when you've got a legacy code base that has been around for 20 years and now all of a sudden you're injecting AI into it and you're trying to deal with it, finding things that maybe you didn't want it to find, or maybe there's refactoring. One of the items that I had a customer ask me this week is everything is always adding code. Very rarely is it ever deleting code. Even when we refactor, it still adds more code. How are you looking at some of those, let's say, brownfield applications, and what are the ways that you're thinking about using AI for some of those?
Yeah, I think, just getting familiar with your bag of tricks, right, with AI. So it doesn't always have to be, hey, go to this code base and transform it from X to Y. It would be great if it did, but like a lot of our code bases have a lot of external dependencies, third-party libraries, that type of thing. And trying to upgrade 10 things from a tech debt perspective into the newest architecture, like that's a big, heavy lift. So we've found success in kind of, okay, well, let's try to upgrade one of those things at a time and kind of work it through a continuous pattern. And so over time, you can do that. The other thing that we've done is also like, okay, this code base is something that, yikes, right? We all have some of those. And so leverage AI to inspect the code. So tell me what it's doing, what are the business rules, and then we can reverse engineer the specs or the user stories, whatever capabilities out of that, and then get with a more a different tool or AI capability to start building back up and kind of replacing those capabilities from a newer stack.
So Kyle, I'm going to sort of put you on the spot because this was a really good question I got from a customer yesterday, and I promised them I would ask you on stage.
Oh boy.
So the scenario that they put me in is, I agree with you, having a good foundational model for how your issues are managed, things like that. How we define sprints in the future will probably change, how we build work items, tasks, things like that. What happens when, let's say, I am in Kiro CLI and it goes off and it generates 1,000 lines of code off of a single task that was there, but there's 4 lines of code in there that solves that task, but the other 900 lines of code, there's actually 6 other issues that are in the backlog that it maps to.
Yep.
How are you thinking about being able to sort of create sort of this two-way sync between knowing what's in my backlog, what code's being written, and the two of them can sort of work together?
Yeah, it's tough too as a builder in the space. Like Opus 4.5 just came out and it's totally different behavior. Sonnet 4.5 loves writing markdown files. So there's just like these like interesting nuances with the model you're using as well. But the way we think about this, and we're sort of formalized, we can talk a little bit about Kiro as well, but like we think of it as vibe coding and spec coding. Vibe is really good where you're, I need to update this string, or I need to do kind of contained a session. I'm going to be in here for maybe 2 hours. I'm going to run through the session. The good news is it's local on your IDE, and the cost of iteration is so cheap now that you can just be like, you did that wrong, redo it. Things like checkpointing are really common in these. So like putting tools around the AI, like you almost think of like your CI pipeline as a guardrail. Checkpointing, keeping it local to a branch, always don't ever write on your main, always go to a branch. Because the worst case scenario, the way I actually kind of reflect on this is like, if that looks bad, then just trash your branch. Like it's so cheap to start over again. But whenever it gets more interesting and serious is the spec stuff, which you've talked about, and that's one of the big areas we're focused on now is, well, what is the definition of this thing? How do I get a spec? And what we're seeing is the LLMs are getting really good at following instructions, and I suspect they're even better and better in 6 months from now. So take a spec, put it out there, and we're exploring things like property-based testing, which uses like automated reasoning to look at the data patterns, not the actual unit tests, and how do you ground that agent? So don't have it write your unit tests, or have a different agent write the unit tests and verify it. So we're seeing multi-agent systems as verifiers. We're seeing specs as a way to like guide it for this feature. Like take a Jira ticket, blow it out into a spec so you go through it. And then vibing on your branch that you can trash is kind of the happy middle right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, also don't have it, the LLMs like to push code a lot. So I'm always like, one of my prompts is keep it local. Don't push this. But yeah, you'll learn, and then you come up with prompt libraries. And one of the things you're seeing, like with Kiro, we have steering files. There's lots of versions, agent MD. But like, what's really nice is the power user goes to this project first, populates it with architecture, best practices, and some other things. And then every person coming next is like, oh, we use Postgres. We don't use SQLite or whatever. Like you start to benefit as you use it a bit too. So yeah, those are kind of things we're seeing, but it is definitely messy.
Great. So we've sort of gone through some of the different pieces of where we are today, which is kind of crazy because when we started having this conversation 3 months ago, like a lot of things that we talked about, we're already implementing a lot of those things. So let's think about like the future, and like if you could envision what this is going to look like. And before we used to say 5 years. Now we've got to pull that back to like 2 years. What do you see that world looking like for your teams and how they work with AI and how they're working with GitLab and sort of that autonomy, and how do you see all those things fitting together in the future?
Yeah, I don't even know if 2 years is appropriate, right? Like maybe 6 to 9 months. But I think we're definitely curious about, the persona-based AI agents. So kind of taking that again, in an effort to try to iterate as quickly as possible, let's have a product owner persona, let's have a developer persona, let's have the security persona, and be able to iterate through those different personas to get to a working prototype capability, whatever, in a very short amount of time, and then using our CI/CD capabilities to really get it out the door and reduce and release features to our customers as quickly as possible. So I think the persona-based agentic workflows are going to be really, really interesting. Additionally, I think the DevOps agents being able to start pulling things in from multiple areas, whether it's a runtime concern, a security concern, or a new feature concern. Like there's multiple entry points into a team for generating work, and being able to have those AI agents kind of receive that request and then go, okay, yeah, here's what we need to do in a code base, here's our merge request, here you go, team. So I think it's going to really redefine how we think about our work and how we redefine our teams as well.
Great.
Yeah.
How about you?
There's two things that just stand out as like gaps that we haven't solved yet. One is the code review process, I think, is just going to transform in lots of different ways, especially when you consider, one of the products we launched yesterday is around this autonomous agent. And it can run 10 tasks at a time and can work for hours. And it's been really cool. I've been working on it for a while now, but you still have to review the code. And we need a better way to do that. So that's something we're starting to think about a lot. And then the other one, along with the autonomous development agent, we announced the DevOps agent, which is one flavor of what you're talking about, and then the security agent. We're calling them frontier agents in the sense that it's a mix of agents. It's actually like a dozen agents in there doing different work. One of the biggest themes that I think we'll have to solve for, and I don't think we're thinking about it enough, is, great, I want a persona agent that does autonomy. What's the authorization story? Is it a user in your Entra ID? Is it on behalf? Like we have a policy at AWS, every agent will be owned by someone. That doesn't mean you can't ask that agent to do work for you, but there is an owner for it. And every customer, I think, is rethinking this process right now. Do you hook in with, you've got vendors that build out really nice authorization layers that map from because you're talking about GitHub, Jira, GitLab, a mix of all of those. And you might have 4 or 5 source code providers in the same company. How do you write authorization policies that says that this agent, when Lee's using it, can do this thing?
Yep.
And I think that's a really interesting problem that we're starting to think about now. And ideally, what you do is you have a container with a proxy policy around it, and the agent is free to operate. It can't destroy anything. It's got its own file system. It can pull down legacy code and build it. That's what we're striving for is this autonomy. And I think authorization is going to be the interesting thing.
So one of the items that I was talking to a customer a few weeks ago, and they sort of pointed me to a diagram that I had shared with them a few years back. And going back to sort of pull the thread forward is before we used to think about platforms with capabilities were these things that we sort of stacked horizontally. And what they said is it's no longer us going from left to right. It's now always interactive. There's always something like an event-driven architecture. There's always events happening everywhere. So now if you took all of those platform services and created a circle, and then in the middle was a human plus AI, and you're going to have some, like you said, like I might have an identity associated with one platform and an identity associated with another platform. They'll go do the work on my behalf, but I will be the one directing where the outputs go. So they'll go figure out what the input should be, and then I'll define the outputs, and then we'll be able to get into a point that you can have that kind of a workflow. And this goes back to where GitLab sees this is when we talk about our Duo agent platform, we've had Duo in multiple different incarnations. So with our new CEO, we've really doubled down on this idea of instead of thinking about GitLab saying, here's how you should manage your issues, here's how you should manage your merge request, we've now opened this up completely to allow you to define your own agents. So not just having persona-based, but also task-based. So if I'm somebody who, like I could have an agent responsible for combing the backlog. Hey, go aggregate all of these issues together, summarize them, and pull them together, and let's put those back into our backlog. You might have somebody who's responsible for looking at all of the critical security issues across all of the different projects. So as you're looking forward to using GitLab and building your own agents and using the agent catalog, how does that impact some of your thoughts for where we're going in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great capability, and we're really excited about it. Have we figured everything out? Like, heck no, right? But some of the early wins that we've had with AI, like you mentioned, were just, hey, go comb all these repos and find out where I may have a concern. Maybe there's an outdated library. Maybe there's something that we need to update across a large swath. And hey, just go find this stuff for me. So I think it's going to be an interesting mix of how do you create the agents, Kyle, like what you were saying, with every agent has an owner that is kind of based in that domain knowledge, and being able to leverage each one of those domain-based agents in that workflow where the product engineer is kind of at the center of managing the workflow. So I think it's really exciting. We're gonna have to go figure some stuff out.
Yeah,
obviously.
There's a couple things on this one that gets me excited too, because we've been working for the last year. We announced the Q integration, which is evolving now to be more DAP oriented with GitLab. And over the last year, we've talked to so many customers together who just love the GitLab experience of the controls they put in. But what we learned this we had a Java transform agent.
Yep.
Problem was we wrote the agent, AWS, and it's like you had to be on version 8 going to like whatever. And it's like, okay, if you hit that. And so many times I was so disappointed not having be able to help the customer. What I love about this approach with the Duo agent platform is you write the agent using the same framework and guardrails. One of the cool things we built with the integration is every request the agent makes gets scoped down to least privilege. So if that token got intercepted or something went wild, it will never be able to do more than this very narrow set. And I think that's like the power you get when it's the tool provider, and why we wanted to do this integration. But But now I look at the Duo Agent platform, it's building on that, and now you can define your own transformation or your own upgrade. It doesn't have to be one that I've vended. And then it solves the other problem, which is with the catalog. How do you discover this stuff? Now you don't need everyone in your company to be pros. Now you actually have a home. I think that's another trend we're going to find is where are you storing your MCP servers? Where are you storing your prompt catalogs? Where are the best practices? And so I think there's going to be some pretty neat manifestations. I'm sure Duo will continue to evolve. Yeah. But this iteration, I think, hits on most of the problems we hit last year, which was rigidness, and you still had to kind of figure out how to be great with AI. So those things I'm excited to see in the hands of customers.
So one of the items that has come up in almost every single one of my conversations with customers this week, specifically around DAP and how AI is being used, is one customer I talked to who was a very heavy Q user. What they loved was the logging and the analytics and the dashboards you could get around that. How are you working with customers to be able to show that and how that impacts the overall business of how people are using AI internally?
This is one, you'll probably hit this too. We talk about this a lot internally at Amazon, which is we're enabling, we just announced Kiro will be the default tool for all of Amazon, and we're seeing a lot of progression with like our transformations and stuff. But we were in a review with, and we realized, they're going to forget how productive it's becoming. And in 6 months from now, they're not going to notice this background work getting done. And they're like, what am I paying for? And so there's this interesting balance where I think metrics and analytics and like measuring the impact is going to be necessary to keep us around. It's like showing that ongoing impact. But then the important thing is everyone has unique ways that they want to measure this. So we use CloudTrail as a pretty popular way to do that. We report to CloudTrail. We're adopting more and more open telemetry so that you can just take the data and go where you want to go. And that way, if you have your own, everyone has their own custom dashboards. And I actually think it's okay. You're pulling it in, you want to use this tool, you download CSVs. So we just want to make the data available. You get into some interesting things. I think we probably hit this with you all, is like user mappings, user IDs. You don't want PII in there. You don't want to be weird about like, so there's some stuff we're still working through, but the idea is that it can be highly accessible to customers because one, we want to show the impact ongoing so that you don't forget the benefit you're getting.
How is Southwest thinking about using that data to be able to determine how to better educate and use AI?
Oh yeah, I mean let's face it, the hype cycle associated with AI was just off the charts, right? And so all the executives were getting sold the art of the possible, and there was, wow, this is really cool, but like, what are the returns we're really getting here? So we've gotten everything from anecdotal to user accounts, and like Southwest is kind of a verbal storytelling type of organization. So we do a lot of storytelling, highlighting successes that teams have had using AI. Definitely looking to continue our journey with, taking in OTel sources into CloudWatch, AMP, AMG, all that kind of stuff, and creating our, kind of adding this to our overall observability platform. So it is, I think it's something that we're working on. It is something that that is important to us to really make sure that, Kyle, as you said, we don't lose line of sight to what are the benefits, because it is, it's started as a kind of a developer tool, right? Well, our developers don't code all day, every day. So it's kind of like, well, it's for the fraction of time that they do code, we're seeing improvement. But then as we start thinking about agentic and leveraging agentic across the SDLC, then the amount of time that is subject to become more efficient is broader now. So I think we've really got to keep on that path of metrics and logging to be able to show that, hey, not only are the capabilities expanding, but the efficiency across those capabilities are also increasing.
Great. So as we think about where we're going and all of these different pieces, we've got a few minutes left. If there was something that you wanted the audience to take away from the session, what would be that nugget of information you'd like to share with them?
Well, I think just don't be afraid of it. Just try it first and foremost. So we've kind of changed from asking folks, hey, are you using AI, to why are you not using AI? So really getting it part of your everyday vocabulary, getting yourself familiar with it. I mean, some of the first things that I did was just, okay, like I want to go build me a C++ craps game, right? Just try it with the different things that you're doing throughout your day and see how you can leverage it. And like I started out just asking it questions and then started to, over time, learn how to steer it to a better response. So I think that's the thing is it's, Kyle, what you were saying, it's, put it in its boundary so that it's not going to do anything harmful. I mean, you're just working on a file, right? And so just go experiment with it and try it. And then as you get good at it, then turn that into an enterprise capability, put your guardrails around it, harden it, and so on.
And Kyle, I'll throw it over to you, like where you're going and your roadmap and things that you're excited about. What nuggets of information would you leave the audience with?
I think the autonomy is coming really fast. Like the agentic, the instruction following, tool following, and agent calling agents is very much doable now. And so my focus right now is it's not ready yet for wide deployment. I talked about the authorization thing. You can do it at a user level. So that's what I'm focused on is like, how do we get these agents access to the tools they need? How do you do the authorization layer? And how do you just let them go? And I think you have source of truth systems and GitLab between filing issues so you can keep things up to date. Those are the things I'm really thinking about. But my bet right now, or the general bet we're making is like the models are only going to get better. What's going to be unique is the context and how you want to manage that context and the kind of guardrails you're building around that, which I don't see, again, CI/CD is not going away. Context management's not even developed yet. Agent memory is like, you want to be able to experiment with lots of agents. And it's moving away from models to agents now because it's multi-agent systems. So I'm thinking a lot about how do we help customers get their context in place? How do they have their CI in place so that as those new things come up, more people can experiment without issues. And it's definitely been a journey.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I want to leave everybody with as well is the one thing I've learned from many different customer journeys is patience.
Yeah.
If you are an engineering leader, be patient with your team. This is something where it's new, and you've got to let the people experiment and try different things. Don't ask them to go and refactor a 10 million line of code application and make it microservices and stuff like that, and yell at them on Friday because it didn't happen in 3 days with AI. The other thing is hallucinations happen. Mm-hmm. And it's really important if you think that you're just going to hit the go button and everything happens. I have the opportunity to be able to work with a lot of university students. And I'm like, the part of the exams that you all hate the most is where your job is going to have the most impact. And that is somebody's going to give you 100 lines of code, and you're going to know there's 5 bugs in it. Point to me where those 5 bugs are. And you're not going to have a way to be able to just sit there and, nope, I'm okay, I'm just going to go build it again, and I'm going to start over. You're going to have to learn how to use AI, how to possibly create a very unique prompt to be able to say, here's these 100 lines of code, help me debug this, and then have it almost like a debugger walk you through the steps of helping you debug it as a peer. So that's one of the things that I hope everybody can take away from this is, everybody's going on different journeys at different paces. We're here to help AWS and GitLab, and Southwest has been a great partner for us along this journey. So I'm hoping that you all learned something new. And if you guys have any questions, I'd welcome for you to stop by our booth. You can also start a free trial. Go ahead and join us on this journey and come play with the tools. And thank you all very much for coming.